Harrison Price. That was abrupt. That was not on me. That was not the slow fade. I will not
same
take
song
the
every
L
day.
2
It's
days
the
in a row.
same
No,
song every day,
no.
Matthew. Honestly.
Sick Harrison Price for Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. Coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the historic and incredibly busy Wall Center. A day unlike any other at the Wall Center parking garage.
It is a hustle and a bustle down there.
So much so, I'm parked in the loading dock with a note on the windshield. They did not have space, went all the way down, had to come all the way back up. Couldn't even park at our buddy Jason's World Class Auto Care.
And you know it's crazy down there when you do that. You're parked here in the loading dock with the note, and they're like,
no, they're like, no, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
It's anarchy.
One less person we have to deal with here. And thank you, AC/DC. Apparently, you're to blame for all the activity here at the Wall Center.
Are they playing BC Place?
We love to see the Wall Center fall. They're not only playing BC Place, they're bringing the house down at BC Place.
That's kind of crazy.
What are they, like 60,000 people?
Yeah, and AC/DC, total legends, but like I wouldn't put them quite in the same stratosphere as the Stones and Pink Floyd and all that sort of stuff. Like in terms of draw, apparently they are, though. Into their 70s. Filling BC Place.
I think it's also because, I don't think there are many more.
Well, we said
AC/DC
that about the Stones.
Wow, yeah, no, for sure.
Never know, though.
I went to the Stones in 2001 or 2 thinking, boy, not many chances left to see the Stones. Here they are.
I said that in 1987 with the Stones.
Mm-hmm. So day got better from there. There's a lovely spot that the sun hits out here. Like to go to sit down, bask in the sun. So I'm walking up there, and I'm like, there's a wet paint sign there on the gray wall. That doesn't look like wet paint, though.
It's marble.
Sit down on the black bar. Sure enough, that was the wet paint. So we're having a day here. I'm Matt. This is Blake.
He's the guy with the black racing stripe on his ass.
Exactly. Yeah, new trend starting here tonight in downtown Vancouver. Mike Rogerson, hitting switches and conducting things, a member of the 1993 Ladysmith 49ers Provincial Basketball Championship team.
A Renaissance man.
Mike just continues to amaze us in the life that he has lived prior to coming to this program. World champion log roller, traveled the world with lumberjack athletes putting on shows.
Mm-hmm.
Provincial basketball champion, got high with Snoop Dogg, mixer, arranger, producer, sound engineer. You have packed a lot into...
Aren't you a curler too, Mike? Isn't there curling in your background too?
I did peak at 16, though.
Oh, 16.
At least you peaked.
Hey, you know what our warm-up song was? Thunderstruck.
Right.
Of course.
Everybody in the 90s used Thunderstruck.
Of course.
Yeah. Everybody. Lots to get through today.
Mm-hmm.
We have a busy show.
Yeah, we do.
First, people were in the starting gate ready. We're going to get to this eventually, but great comment already. The PWHL has existed for one day. They already have a practice facility. The Canucks try for years. And hell, why wouldn't they combine with the PWHL team? Why wouldn't they go, hey, that's actually a really good idea. Let's share it.
Well, it's funny because we watched the press conference this morning, and one of the league executives said, we're so excited to be at the Pacific Coliseum in the Agrodome. And we both sort of looked at each other like, Agrodome?
I thought maybe some games were the smaller games.
Exactly.
Maybe at the
and I was
Agrodome?
like, oh, they're practicing. Oh, they got a facility. Surrey Mitsubishi poll question today. Who do you want coaching the Vancouver Canucks next season? Rick Tocchet, Manny Malhotra, or you can vote somebody else. And if you do, please do specify in the comments. Let us know who you want as Vancouver Canucks head coach, because that would be instructive. Pretty good voting on this already. Some write-in votes for Mike Sullivan. Jay Woodcroft deserving another shot. Yeah, Jay Woodcroft and Todd Nelson, I think, both deserve.
I think Sully's staying put, though. It sounds like he's staying put.
Sounds like Sullivan is staying put. There's some Gerard Gallant love, Joel Quenville in the comments. A lot of people wanting the lawyer from Prince George. I don't think John Cooper is done winning in Tampa, although they lose last night. But I know Rutherford has hired him once before. Please don't tell me Peter Laviolette's coming here. And if Peter Laviolette does come here, please tell me that Peter Laviolette will have done some introspection and understand I can't just be a dick to everybody in my orbit.
Can you imagine
anymore.
the battle? Just day in, day out battle.
I think Peter Laviolette would lose his mind in about 2 months in this market.
He doesn't have the medal.
No, I don't think so.
I'm going to surprise you with my vote. I'm going to say Rick Tocchet, but not for any particular love for what he's done here so far. Mm-hmm. I don't think this team needs another new head coach. You know, Quinn Hughes, in your effort to keep him, not only does he like Rick Tocchet, and that will help placate him, I don't think he'll like the rotation of coaches that he has seen in his short tenure as a Vancouver Canuck. Like, enough is enough. Like, we've seen this in other markets with other struggling teams that have had superstars on them. Like, just giving that guy a new head coach every 18 months doesn't usually pay off for that team. That's why they keep doing it.
You not only have surprised me here, but I'm proud of you. Because all year long, I sat here and listened to Rick Tocchet shade from you.
And you're going to hear more of it. You're going to hear more of it unless he changes some things.
Well, how about they change the personnel for him? He can only coach whoever comes off the bus.
Mm-hmm.
So we saddle him with shitty defensemen, and actually he took some responsibility for the free agent defenseman that didn't work out. I guess it's just Desharnais, but you know what I mean. Which I thought was quite big of him last week. And he does have a voice in that room in terms of personnel. But at the end of the day, again, he makes recommendations. Patrick Alvin makes decisions on players. I voted Tocchet. He's a good market fit. Your captain wants him. And look, I know Jim Rutherford was talking big about having to get that top center iceman and it being as expensive not to get him as to actually have to give up the assets in a trade to acquire that player. But failing that, or even if you get that guy, I do think you're still going to have to win mostly with good team defense. That has been the Tocchet mantra here. That has been the staple. To me, that's been his best achievement here, as he took a really terrible defensive team and whipped them into shape to the point where they were one of the best defensive outfits in the National Hockey League 2 years running, particularly the way everybody plays defensively together. It's not just goaltending. It's not just relying on stout blue liners. It's the forwards as well.
He's got to figure out the rush, though.
He absolutely does.
Both executing it and defending it. Both of those things, they have to be better.
But you're sitting here looking at a team that right now is weak at center ice, doesn't really have the center iceman to play more of an up-tempo style. Mm-hmm. You're sitting here looking at a team that could lose Brock Besser and Pius Suter. That's 50 goals out of your lineup. So, when I cast forward to next year, and of course knowing how important next year is going to be in terms of Operation Keep Quinn Hughes, I do think they're going to have to do it as a more defensively oriented club than a club that can sit there, go up and down, and outscore its problems. Like, look at the wingers here. DeBrusk, Garland. Okay, Joshua and Höglander, you anticipate they'll bounce back. Will Sherwood get to 19 goals again? I just don't see enough collective firepower on the team, to make that transition quickly next fall after whatever you had in the summer. Remember, they tried it at the beginning of this year. Alvin was talking about that Monday. Well, we tried it, but then it became a matter of injuries and personnel. And the best way to go about trying to win games was trying to lock it down and win low-scoring games. Philosophically, that was sound.
Mm-hmm.
Not the most entertaining. I'm with you and everybody else that there were certainly years of Canucks hockey that I enjoyed more in terms of the 2.5 hours invested to watch the games and the build-up to games. Yeah, this wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing, and it wasn't effective, and, that's the double whammy, but I think it can get back to being effective next year with good team defense and defensive principles. And I think that's Tocchet's specialty. Nothing to add, Blake.
No,
wow, how
no.
about that? Agrees wholeheartedly.
I've given I don't agree, but there's months ahead to tell you you're wrong.
What? No? Okay. He's going to save it, to quote Rick Ball. We've got to do a day this summer entirely on Mike's life. Just sit him down in front of the microphone. We shut up. It's like a day off for us, and Mike just tells us about it.
There is a less than zero, or non-zero chance. Non-zero chance.
Yep.
There is a world championship that we still don't know about from Mike Rogerson.
Mm-hmm.
It could be in the arts. It could be athletics. Something.
Because he's just so he's so casually cool.
Yeah.
Like, the Agrodome. Mike goes, the Agrodome. Won a provincial
Like
title.
literally, tomorrow's going to be.
Excuse me?
I've got a piece
You said
hanging in
what?
the Louvre.
What?
Like that. I'm ready for this kind of thing.
Yeah. Because honestly, he doesn't strike you as a basketball player. Like at first glance, you're not like, that's a provincial championship point guard. But
Hey.
He's 4'9.5".
Just because my intern is
93.
6'9".
Did you beat? Oh, that's right. Jaden. Sorry, I failed to introduce Jaden today. So many things have gone wrong here the last couple of days.
Not wrong.
Jaden Tasha entering alongside Mike. 93, like.
Right after me.
Was Steve Nash at St. Mike's at the? No.
That was 91 and
He's
92.
a couple years older.
I was going to say.
I played pickup against him.
But if he had told
Everybody's
me,
played pickup against
I
Steve
locked
Nash.
down Steve Nash in the provincial final, hey, our boy David Sanchez played against him in the provincial final. Poll question brought to you by Surrey Mitsubishi, where you can get $500 off a new or pre-owned vehicle. Just mentioned Sekerson price, and cannot underline this enough. Surrey Mitsubishi will beat any offer out there. So bring them the offer you get elsewhere, and Surrey Mitsubishi will beat it. Score more, save more value, more savings. 13820 104th Avenue in Surrey. Time now for our top story, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Wine. I had to chase my tail last night.
That kind of day, beautiful day.
Yeah, I was. I sat down yesterday to watch the playoffs in both leagues, NHL and NBA, flip around the dial. Yeah, okay. Tick-Tocchet. Will Rick be back? Supposed to know this week, but with every passing day, Blake.
Yeah, I mean, with every passing day, I mean, they made it sound like positive or negative. They're going to find out this week. Like it wasn't
I think that's right.
Like it wasn't presented as we'll see if he accepts our latest offer this week. It sounded like they were going to make a decision on their head coach by the end of the week. So,
well, their head coach was making a decision.
Are you one of the two? However you want to read it.
We will hear from Jim Rutherford here in a second. I got to say, I was surprised to hear John Shannon tell us yesterday that he's not optimistic.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if that is coming from a place of knowledge with John, even if he didn't cop to any of that yesterday when we spoke to him. But the more I think it out from Rick Tocchet's skates, the more I understand. If it's about money and staying power, I think he's surely better off elsewhere, right? The runway will probably be longer anywhere else, right? Because he's put in 2.5 years here. And as we know, coaches now are very disposable. don't have long shelf life.
And you ultimately need to prove something, and he has one playoff round win. So you're right. If they don't make the playoffs or they are bumped in the first round next year, that'll be 3 legitimate chances to win a playoff round. He'll have one.
Not only that, if you're keeping Elias beyond July 1st, right? And if Elias isn't going next year, it's going to be hard to blame the player.
Yep.
So there's that as well. So, you think it out. If there are 4 or 5 year deals available elsewhere, Blake, at like $4 to $5 million per, like suddenly you're into $16 to $20 million. Are the Canucks going to buck up and pay that? Because I don't think the Canucks are going to go to that level of term.
Yeah.
Are the Canucks going to overpay on a shorter term? I have trouble with that as well.
That's the safer
These
bet.
owners do not want to pay coaches not to coach. They've done a lot of that.
Right. So
I think you're a little bit a victim of your own history here in terms of what you're willing to pay coaches and perhaps not having enough to pay this coach.
But every scenario is different. And if I'm the Canucks, I would hedge towards shorter term and give the guy a lot of money. And you'll probably still save money in the long term, and you have a better chance of avoiding that we're paying 2 coaches thing.
Yeah. The other parts here, actually, let's just recast. If you missed it earlier this week, if you missed it last week, we'll hear from Rutherford here. We'll hear from Tick-Tocchet, and then we'll come back and discuss the other moving parts on the Canucks head coaching situation. So on Monday, I believe it was JPAD, went to ask Patrick Alvin about Rick Tick-Tocchet, and Rutherford jumped in. Here you go.
I'll take that one because I'm the one doing the contract, and I know that like every year or all during the year, there's always issues being talked about what the coaches want the general manager to get for them and how he wants to play and all that. I believe that communication's been good this year, and it's even been better since the season's ended because I've actually sat in a couple of those meetings, and it's been a really good dialogue, okay? We will not exercise the team option for him to stay. We don't feel it's right to have somebody here that may have his mind somewhere else. And I'd say that about anybody. This is not just about talk. But we believe that, and I believe that Tick and his coaching staff did as good a job coaching this team this year as they did the year before when he was coach of the year. Now, he was dealt a totally different hand this year. When the team won the division, it was a lot of good work by him, a lot of good work by the players, but everything went right. This year, we've talked enough about, the incident that happened and affected the chemistry of the room and affected the play of the team in the first half and forced a trade. But with all that going on, how he handled the situation and how he handled the team was really good. So I give him and his staff kudos for the job they did this year. As for his contract, we've gone through a process. We've negotiated. I would suspect sometime this week he'll have a decision. We have gone a long ways from where coaches have been compensated with the Canucks for years, forever actually, and we're hoping that he takes that contract and stays.
I mean, that's a wonderfully holistic answer from Jim Rutherford, covering all the territory. You do wonder whether starting with that, there's always the friction between what the coach wants and the GM wants. Friction, my word, not his. You wonder if that was a nod to maybe they weren't on the same page last year in the summer, but he comes back and says, but the more recent meetings on that, excellent. He's completely correct about why you wouldn't want to bring Tick-Tocchet back on an extension. That is not a particular commitment to the coach. You could very easily create a scenario where your coach is wondering what's next, who's next. If you did that, not to mention, we've talked about this many, many times over the course, of many coaches here. When you have a coach on an expiring deal, it creates a dynamic with the players where they look around and go, okay, is this guy going to be here next year? He's very easy to fire. He's very easy to tune out. And I also thought it was a full-throated, they did a great job this year, even though, last year they won the Jack Adams. This year was disappointing to us. Because I think that's Jim's way of taking a little responsibility for mismanaging the Miller-Pettersson situation and putting his coaching staff and his dressing room in that position.
The more I think about it too, Matt, this was a really poorly thought-out contract format, period. They aren't bound by CBA laws and regulations like players are. They could have formulated this any way they wanted. And both team and coach should have seen this problem coming when they signed it. Remember, they had no success when they signed it. It was just a, hey, can you take over this tire fire and see what you can do? But what they should have said is, after 2.5 years, then you've got to make your decision. Or sorry, after 1.5 years.
Effectively
after 1.5 years, you got to make your decision on the option year at that point. Because otherwise it just gets too awkward. We're headed towards like a pseudo negotiation. Like it's no man's land. They should have seen this coming. The deadline for the extension should have been July 1st of last year, at which point the Canucks trigger it immediately. He just won Coach of the Year. They go, yeah, we want him. And we don't have this whole drama right now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why they thought this was the right way to go.
I would bet that Tocchet wanted a 4-year deal, and the Accolades went, let's make it an option because we don't love paying coaches not to coach.
Right, but
I would bet this is a once bitten, twice shy scenario.
But they sort of walked themselves into this problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like they could have formulated this in a way that I think everybody would have been happy with, where after that Coach of the Year, he says, okay, you got 2 years left now. You don't have 1 year left.
Yeah. Tocchet spoke on this last week. These are the last words that we got from Rick, who you may remember did his year-end media availability Friday. I was off to Vegas, his off-season home, Saturday. Mm-hmm. So he went apart from management, which is different than in years past, different than a lot of clubs do it. And who knows? These could be the last words that we hear from Rick Tocchet as head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, but he was asked about his contractual status, and here's what he said.
You want to be back here.
Well, I mean, of course you want to be back here, but there's a process you have to go through, right? I haven't really, all year I haven't breathed. I did, during the time off, I was at Four Nations. You're trying to get this team to the playoffs, dealing with all that stuff. So I haven't really thought of myself. I know people don't believe that. It's not, but sure, at nighttime you think, hey, what am I going to do? You think of those thoughts, but I do have to take a breath and go through. I think out of respect, both sides, you have to go through the process. You have to, and I understand. I know the next question is going to be, well, how much time do you need? Like, I'm not an idiot. Like, I can't sit on a couch and it's not. I'll decide when I decide. I mean, obviously there's a time frame, but right now for me, I mean, there's a process I got to go through with Jim and Patrick, and that's really where it's at.
And thinking back on that question and that answer, Blake, if he really wanted to be back, like if this was number one, the answer would have been yes. Instead it was, of course I do. But at the same time, there was a lot of equivocation there.
Yeah. And
I think there's some reservations. I don't blame him. Elliot Friedman saying that he wonders if Tocchet wants the dust to settle here, see the totality of vacancies. We know it's Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, the Rangers, Anaheim, Seattle right now. Would there be any? I mean, I don't think you can wait long enough to see who's out of the playoffs and makes coaching changes. So I think you're talking about the non-playoff teams and whether or not there's any more changes there.
Think about the original 6 teams and Philadelphia up for grabs.
Mm-hmm. Broadway.
Yeah, there's
Orange County. There's
some interesting spots. Not so much competitive spots.
Yep.
But there's some interesting lifestyle choices that can be made. That's for sure.
Do you think there's any chill on Tocchet's part about Quinn Hughes and his future here? Like, does he sit there and think to himself, gosh, this could be Quinn's last season? And
I mean, it's impossible to know because, it could be one little tiny sentence that Quinn said to Rick Tocchet that was like, holy crap, he's gone in 2 years. You just never know if something like that on the plane one day after, where Rick
Or he
Tocchet sort of
sit-
cocks his head and goes, "Oh God, I think he's gone."
Or he sits there and he hears what Jim said on Monday and went, "Oh man,
It's a real risk.
I am putting my coaching life in the hands of a player who may leave after the season, may want to leave after the season, and a management group that really has to pull a rabbit out of a hat to create the team, a microwave-style contender here so that he does stick around."
And so Matt,
So I get all of that on Tocchett's part, which in conjunction with the openings and how attractive some of these openings are, and I think, some of these teams are in different situations than others. Like if you're going to the Rangers, you're going to be expected to win immediately because that's how the Rangers operate. But, as we've talked about with other teams like Philadelphia, you got pretty good runway there. Like, they're not going to be tossing you overboard for missing the playoffs next year because that's very much a team in rebuild.
which
and
is
it's
why
understood.
a 2-year contract might work for everybody involved. That coincides then with the remaining years in Quinn Hughes' contract.
But then
And-
you're right back at the table next year, Blake, unless you want the lame duck coach, right? I think it's got to be a minimum 3.
But again, does Rick Tocchet want to be tied down when he doesn't know the future? And even if Quinn Hughes does get traded next summer in a worst case scenario here for the Canucks, if he does get traded, you'll know what the Canucks did in the trade if you're Rick Tocchet. So holy crap, they extricated themselves pretty well here with that trade. And then you can make a decision going forward.
I would think he just, like most people, want the money, right? So more term, more money. Is it that simple?
Yeah, he strikes me as a guy who also wants to be happy, though.
Yep. Fair enough.
More so than
Fair enough.
every coach.
Yep.
So
Like he's a different breed of coach than Laviolette's bet. Like Greg Cronin, who just got fired in Anaheim, right? Like he didn't play in the NHL forever, make huge money,
No.
and then have other big money jobs like television panelists and things like that.
he wanted to coach. Yeah. Give me all the years.
Yeah.
I mean,
What
do you do a 3-year deal with an opt-out after 2? So you're showing your faith, but you've got to back it up. or
You
else
give
he-
him an opt out, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because then he's got the security to leave
Yep.
if need be. But
And
if
then
you
you're
do
off
yours-
the hook for the final year of the
Yeah.
compensation. Yeah, maybe something like that. I think you're looking at a very least a 3-year deal. And, what is yet to be known, but with the Canucks telling him and telling everybody, we're not going to have him come back on his option year, that effectively makes him a free agent right now.
Mhm.
Like, to me, the next bit of reporting on this is have teams called the Vancouver Canucks asking for permission to speak to Rick Tocchet.
Like, does the contract for coaches go to July 1st too, or do they get a June 1st? It would seem to be that it would make a lot more sense if their contracts expire June 1st.
Well, I would think they line up with the league year because, of course, coaches coaching in June.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, I guess it would have to be. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
History from Yellow Dog. History from Yellow Dog Brewing. The first ever 15-pack. You asked for it, you've got it. And it's called the Rescue Lager. Every sip of this crisp and refreshing brew also contributes to Yellow Dog's passionate partnership with the BCS-PCA. So it's a win-win. Help give animals the chance they deserve. Cheers to Rescue Lager. Cheers to Yellow Dog. 15 packs are here.
I don't know about you, but I've been enjoying the Stanley Cup playoffs, including the way it is being presented on Sportsnet. Watching last night, I came across this tweet at Just Blake Price. Triumph was an interesting band choice for Rogers to go with for the hype song. Not wrong, just interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Which is Blake's way of saying that Triumph sucks.
No, I own Triumph albums. It's incorrect. It's incorrect. It is a very niche band. They flared.
Have you
hot.
seen the documentary
Yes,
on
I
them?
have.
It's
I
very
have.
good.
I have.
It's
They
very
flared hot for a very brief
Gil.
moment,
Yes, Rick.
but they weren't universally loved.
Incredible live show, though. Like, they brought the pyrotechnic, like, they brought that whole heavy metal hard rock
Yeah,
show.
but I wouldn't say they're like, for most people, they wouldn't be considered legends or I don't know.
but it's a great song.
I don't know how many people were like, oh, yeah, I loved that song back. Like, some, yeah. I don't know if it quite hits everybody.
Lay It on the Line's a great song, though. And I think it's appropriate. I think it works. Stanley Cup playoffs, right? Players lay it on the line.
But you know how there's these retro, these second lives bands undergo? Like right now, Fleetwood Mac is still
Is
very...
that because of the guy on the skateboard with the Sunny D?
Well, I think of that and Daisy Jones and the Six was that
okay.
thing that was sort of built on them.
Journey, of course, because of the Sopranos.
That's right. So there's no second life right now for Triumph. They sort of taken this out of left field.
Maybe this is their second life.
Maybe it starts.
Maybe this is the ignition.
Yeah, maybe.
More importantly, Canadian power trios. Before we did female pop sensations, we did power trios. Triumph, Rush. I'm sure there are others.
There's two. There's two.
But two pretty big bands. Like in the early 80s, if you were going to see a power trio, Rush and Triumph are top of the tops.
Big Tall Garden at North Van?
Were they,
No.
were they three? They were only three? Yeah.
Big time.
A Dewey
Dozens of
party
fans.
in Howland.
Dozens and dozens of fans.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, you piped up for that, huh? Mike, lay it on the line. The musical construction there, do you approve? Like, do you like the engineering there, the mixing, the arranging?
Was the double guitar used on Lay It on the Line? I don't think it was.
It was well produced.
Yeah, very well
Very well
produced. Yeah. Well, I mean, they were smart guys on top of being talented musicians. So the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Battle of Ontario looks like every other Battle of Ontario that has ever happened. Now, you got to go back 20 years, but the Senators are routinely a goal or two short and a save or two short
Right there.
in every playoff game against the Leafs.
Yeah.
And so it's 2-0 for the Maple Buds.
Yeah.
Carolina may run this Jersey team completely out of both buildings. Needless to say, New Jersey, without the defenseman Luke Hughes is hurt, Brendan Dillon is hurt, already missing Jack Hughes. It is getting very tough to see a pathway now for El Diablos. I watched some of that Florida-Tampa. Boy, did the Panthers take it to the Lightning.
No contest.
And that was disappointing, too, is 3 of the 4 games last night were not very close.
Well, the Leaf
Ottawa game was
very
good.
close. And it was made close, Matt, by the heroics late in the contest of one Adam Gaudette.
Shout out to Pete Edwards on Canucks Twitter. He has put together a list of former Canucks in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It would seem we're a little light on centerman here, but nevertheless, those of you on YouTube can see the entirety of what Pete's mocked up there. Not so bad in goal. Markstrom to Smith. I like that.
But they have already gotten off to a very good start.
Cracking start. Rob Williams tracking the former Canucks scoring in the playoffs. Kuzmenko in LA's Game 1 win over Edmonton, and Vancouverite Evander Kane has entered the chat in that series. He'll be in for Game 2 as the Oilers look like they're loading up Draisaitl with McDavid to play tonight.
But Kuzi was out of sight in Game 1.
Kuzi has really bolstered that Kings power play. That was a sneaky nice addition from Rob Blake.
Yep.
At the deadline. Not a high-scoring team. Kuzmenko was really just...
I didn't mind it at 5-on-5, though, either, honestly.
He was lingering. He was dying on the vine there in Philly, gave him new life. Do you remember when the Canucks acquired Anthony Beauvillier and Patrick Allvin several times, talked about how
Playoff
good
performer.
he was for the Islanders in the playoff series against Pittsburgh? Beauvillier's got a goal for Washington.
Well, he got a 2-point night again. These are multi-point nights for Kuzmenko and Beauvillier.
Ekman Larson scored in Game 1 for the Leafs over the Senators. Jalen Chatfield scored the first goal in the Stanley Cup playoffs for Carolina over Jersey in Game 1. You mentioned Gaudette. Nate Schmidt has 2 fucking goals. Nate Schmidt has 2 goals.
It's hysterical. It is absolutely hysterical. And
third pair guys now are out there scoring multiple goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
And maybe Schmidt's... No,
Wants
really?
Canucks.
I mean, these are not players. All 6 of these players. These are not players that were like, oh, the contract ran out, he just went elsewhere. These are 6 players. The Vancouver Canucks made decisions. No, we ain't got no use for any of these guys.
Kuzmenko had to give him up to get Elias Lindholm. Beauvillier, we're lucky to get draft picks, right, before he had to pay to make him go away. Ekman Larson bought out. Chatfield, he'll never be. Well,
Nate Schmidt.
Gaudette, isn't smart enough. Not going to be able to, hold down that third line center spot. And then Nate Schmidt wanted out. Remember?
Yeah. And the Canucks liked him for a minute, and then we're like, no, ain't got no use for you.
Yeah.
Well,
he was the cap guy who shook free in Vegas.
It was a free acquisition,
pounced, right?
It was a free acquisition for the Canucks. It was they got him for a song. So it was
remember back then we were like, oh, Benning got a serviceable defenseman out of Vegas's cap crunch. That's progress.
Yeah,
and it was like, oh, Jason Dickinson. Benning got a serviceable center iceman out of Dallas's
we had some
expansion
culpas.
draft crunch.
Yeah,
and we're like, okay, things maybe are starting to.
No,
they were not turning around.
No.
Darren Dreger tells us Connor Garland going to the Worlds for the Team USA. He outlined that last week. Marcus Pettersson is joining him. You told me.
I saw that. Yeah,
Swedish defenseman.
Yeah, Express reported that.
Yeah, Darren Dreger saying that Dean Evison is going to coach the Canadian entry, the Columbus Blue Jackets
with Huska
head coach with Ryan Huska of the Calgary Flames on the bench. We know Rick Tocchet was asked. He mentioned this last week. He said he could not give Hockey Canada his best right now. Needed more time to decide his NHL coaching future. I thought that was big of Rick to bow out, but also I think it's strategic because I get a sense he wants to interview or at least listen to what other teams are proposing here. So, and this fella, you'll be over there
going for
calling some games.
A handful of days and games. Yeah, should be fun. So
Very
if
much looking
anything interesting happenings from a Canuck perspective, I'll try to get to the bottom of it.
You're doing play-by-play?
Yeah.
Do you know who's your...
I'm assuming Mike Johnson, but I actually don't know.
All right. Oh, I like Mike a lot. Where is it? Stockholm and Herning?
I'm in Stockholm, but yes, I don't know where the B pool is.
There's a Denmark side of the equation here as well. Well, it's just very short distance.
A bridge.
Yeah. Lionel Messi was on the plane.
Or this was one big elaborate ruse by Inter Miami. One of the two.
If they're using stock footage to stick it in Vancouver's eye
Can you
again
imagine?
with Lionel Messi.
Can you imagine?
I don't think the Inter Miami people should be getting out of BC Place at the end of tomorrow night.
No, it would not be a safe
If
place.
Lionel Messi is not in BC Place tomorrow, lock the doors and tell Inter Miami you ain't going anywhere until he arrives. So the club has put out images, video, stills of Lionel Messi with a suitcase boarding a plane. That plane should absolutely be headed to Vancouver because they have the big CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinal leg 1 tomorrow.
Yeah.
This fellow, and he knows the thing or two about MLS, of course, calls games for Apple TV. You think because of the knock or the limp or whatever was going on at the end of the game on the weekend, MLS regular season game on the weekend, and the travel, you think Messi is going to be used off the bench here?
That's my guess.
That's your guess.
So I did talk to somebody about this, and it's just one source. You never know. Apparently, there was some thought that last year the club made the decisions on these sorts of things.
Mm-hmm. So much so that there was a problem with the head coach, right?
Yeah, but the club was willing to sort of protect the assets of the players. That is the players.
And of course, he didn't show here last year after the Whitecaps had marketed it, and
But apparently, all that was with an eye to. And remember, that was the transition year. They had just arrived, first year in MLS.
Well, he had played the back-to-back seasons, right? Because he came over after the European camp.
But this year is apparently more in the pocket of
Lionel Messi and Suarez, and
okay.
Well,
I mean, it's a semi. If you're a competitor in any shape,
well,
or form,
not only that, Blake, but I would also hope that when you get to a level of Lionel Messi in any given sport, Wayne Gretzky in hockey, Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus in golf, legacy and reputation and being an ambassador for that sport start to mean a whole lot.
Yeah. For most.
Yeah. I would really hope that the disappointment and the anger of 60,000, 55,000 people in BC Place last year expecting to see Lionel Messi and being disappointed not to, I would hope that would have gotten back to Lionel Messi. And I would hope that Lionel Messi would think holistically enough about this league and his place in it, and of course his legacy and ambassadorial role now, to say to his coaches and superiors there at Inter Miami, say, hey, look, I think it's important I play in every MLS market. This is an opportunity to right a wrong. Put me in, coach. I want to give these. Michael Jordan once asked about, why he plays so hard on a night-to-night basis. It's not just that he was a diabolical competitor, as most guys of this level are, but said it many times. Well, every place I play, there's a father and son in the crowd who are seeing me for the first time and the last time, and I feel a responsibility to give those people their money's worth. I would hope that Lionel Messi has that attitude.
On the other side of that equation, Matt, what do you suspect will be, and what do you want to be, the reception of Inter Miami and Messi in tomorrow night's contest? Because as you mentioned, there's anger, there's frustration from what happened. Part of me, I'm glad that this is the outcome because I think people are paying to go and watch Lionel Messi. But part of me was a little bit intrigued if he didn't show up. It would have been just a cauldron for Miami to play in, like a true road match where they would have had to fight off.
It was last year, and they had no trouble.
No,
with
but the Caps weren't in a place where they were, dominant like they've been so far.
It wasn't a
different equation.
CONCACAF champions
semifinal either. So this is a truly competitive match. I wonder if people will still just be compelled to fawn over him a little bit.
I think so. I for the most part, I think sports fans are pretty forgiving. I think they're particularly forgiving with athletes of this stature. And I think some will just not be able to get over their awestruckness and hero worship to do anything but receive him.
If they were twice spurned, like if he did it again and then it came up again, then I think all bets would be off. The one spurning, I think you're right, they probably forgive.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I think
because that's what they paid their money for, so they want to, as you say, they want that experience.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I'll give soccer a lot of credit here. Soccer supporters, as tribal as they can be, and of course go over to some of the European continents, and it's crazy tribal. I mean, to the point where you're organizing fights against the rival team supporters club. But soccer supporters do have a way of stepping out of their tribe and appreciating greatness.
Yeah.
And this guy is greatness. Of that, there is no doubt.
One mild warning on this, and I'm not going to gatekeep you. Behave however you want to behave at BC Place, as long as it's within the boundaries of society. But if you do decide to be negative towards Messi, I think he might be a little Jordan-esque in this, that might feed the beast.
Oh, yeah, like Novak.
Like Michael Jordan, if you booed him,
right,
good luck, he's scoring 50 on you. Like, it just will happen.
Derek Martin trash talking.
Yeah. So it's just a warning.
Yeah.
That is a possibility.
Yeah. Well, and I think in part soccer supporters are like that because, let's face it, there's very few goals. And goals are celebrated to a level in that sport that goals in other sports, points in other sports aren't celebrated to. And when you've had a guy who has scored as many goals or created as many goals in unique and aesthetically pleasing fashions as Lionel Messi has over the course of his illustrious career, he wins you over, right?
And he's still scoring in magnificent manners.
As much as you may be a fan of a certain club over the actual sport itself, you're still a fan of the sport. And to watch this guy play the sport, I mean, it's to watch Picasso paint, it's to watch Beethoven compose. Like, it is all of those things.
I mean, we've already had this experience to a degree when we saw Canada face Argentina twice at the Copa last year. Like, that was so fun because, I mean, as much as you might be a Whitecaps fan, I would think you'd cheer on Canada more passionately than that even. And
many are club over country in that sport, but I hear what you're saying. And for me, like,
such a historic first.
Your heart's in your throat every time he touches the ball.
Right, you're like, are we ready for this? Do we have the defenses for this?
Close down on him.
So it'll be very interesting.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Can't wait.
The Whitecaps are getting Jaden Nelson and Sam Adekugbe back from injury. That's excellent. We know how good Nelson was at the beginning of the year, and Adekugbe gives them an option at left back there. Tate Johnson's played a lot of minutes, the rookie.
Yeah.
Ryan Gauld, Matthias Laborda need more time. Apparently, Matthias is doing better than Ryan right now, too. It's still going to be a while for Gauld. So, again, Caps 6 wins, 2 draws in their 9 MLS regular season matches. They've won 3 ties in this CONCACAF Champions Cup to get here, and most of it without the working class MVP Ryan Gauld. And some sales news here on the ownership side. Co-owner Jeff Mallett has spoke to The Athletic, says they have offers on paper to keep the team, or to buy the team and keep it in Vancouver.
It was pluralized. Like, they say they've got multiple entities. Now, it could be just 2. It doesn't mean handful, but it's more than one, it sounds like, interested parties in the whole kit and caboodle that is keeping the team here and moving it forward. I mean, he didn't get into the details of, are they interested in building the stadium, or are they okay with being a renter? But you would think any potential owner would have to be excited about that fact.
Well, I mean, that's terrific news, because I got to say, I'm still very worried about this Indianapolis business and somebody wanting to pick up the team and move it.
And
I understand the value of the franchise if you can pick it up and move it. I have trouble getting to the, paper value of the franchise that, the Forbeses of the world will cite. And, the league itself was like, if you're into the hundreds of millions of dollars while being a tenant in BC Place, I just don't see the business model. So if Jeff is saying, and I like, honestly, I'm glad to see Jeff communicate on this, because Jeff is a good communicator. I know there are some people whose only experience with Mallett as a communicator was during the scandal of the ex-coach Berarda, where, look, not Jeff's shining moment, not the club's shining moment, an awful story tip to tail. But I've always felt Jeff is a really good communicator and people person. Like, he's a warm guy. And I've often felt like, boy, like, if he just had a little bit more of a front-facing role, if, like, he did more talking on behalf of the club. Not that Axel isn't good in his own right. I think Axel is very good and very sharp and has made a huge, huge impact positively on the club. But it's just a little different when it's
ownership,
your bottom line, right? Like, when it is somebody who is making
I haven't seen this
all the decisions or green lighting all the decisions because of they own the deed to the franchise.
I haven't seen this written, but I like, he really enjoys it. I've had just a lot of candid conversations with him where he really enjoys being the owner of the Whitecaps, or an owner of the Whitecaps. I would wonder if he could write in, again, it could be the smallest piece of the pie, but I wonder if he would want to stay on as a micro owner.
There's 2 things that Mallett has going for him. Number one, the enthusiasm. He's just a massive sports fan.
Yep.
Like, every time I spend any time with Jeff, of course we talk about the soccer team, and he'll tell you, he grew up on the island as a huge Whitecaps fan. Like, Soccer Bowl 7, like, that was massive in his world. He's also a massive baseball fan. He owns a small piece of the San Francisco Giants. I always ask him, too, hey, how do the Giants look this? And Jeff runs me through personnel and everything. Like, he is invested.
And I guess credit Greg Kerfoot in a lot of ways for making sure that he had the antidote for himself, which is, I don't want to say nothing about anything. So I need somebody who does want to talk. And of course, Jeff does do that.
And again, the more Jeff talks to the market right now, I think, especially when you've got news like we have offers on paper and the buyers want to keep the team in town, I think those are very positive developments.
My favorite quote, by the way, and I think it was from Axel actually, was, we know. They said they were going to keep the Grizzlies. He sung the anthem, and he said, we've heard it. And honestly, we're done hearing it. That's not going to happen. Yeah. So
I saw our friend Ben Lipka out in Abbotsford. Lots of tickets apparently available for this Game 1 tonight between the Abbotsford Canucks and Tucson Roadrunners of the AHL Calder Cup. I know it's a Wednesday. I know they prefer to play weekend games or later in the week games. But, boy, the seat map on the resale market, there was a lot available. Anyways, here it is. Game 1 for Manny Malhotra. and his Chargers, second seed in the Pacific Division, looking to go on a Calder Cup playoff run. And Jeff Pettersson and Dave Hall, prospects writer par excellence at Canucks Army, who keeps a very keen eye on Abbotsford, they've got you covered with Rink-Wide Vancouver this evening. The first ever foray for Rink-Wide with the Abbey Canucks. So really well done. You're going to want to check that out post-game this evening. Let's get to our menu today. It's brought to you by Greta. Fantastic spot to watch all the games, home and away, pregame, postgame. You are mere steps from the Arena Stadium District. Check out the great street food menu. They have the awesome arcade that encircles the bar. Weekly drink specials, 50 West Cordova. Greta, let the games begin. We got Frank Corrado coming up here, and then Cam Robinson from the World Under 18s deep in the heart of Texas. Both are going to talk to us about what they heard Monday from Rutherford and Alvin. We point forward with Cam on a couple of matters, like the Islanders. Are they now a team in transition? Barzal, Horvat, are they available now? Not to mention on Tom Willander as well. So all that's coming up on the program today, and later in the show, get in the PWHL, the new Vancouver franchise there. Very much looking forward to a golf report. JT Miller.
Leave it at that.
Back at it, competing. Love it. And the NFL draft, which is coming up tomorrow. So that's all that coming up on the show. Time now for our Bet365 Bets of the Day. This segment proudly brought to you by Bet365. I got both my games last night. I got Florida, and I got Minnesota. So can I fire first here?
Sure.
I'm going NFL draft. You can bet the NFL draft. It's beautiful. So last year, you may remember, 6 quarterbacks went in the top 12. People are like, oh, my God, Denver took Bo Nix of Oregon, who a lot of teams didn't think a first round worked out. And that's because it's pretty clear in today's NFL with the modern passing rules, if you don't have a great quarterback, it is very difficult to win a Super Bowl. So I think quarterbacks will be taken early and often tomorrow. And so Mississippi quarterback Jackson Dart is minus 300 to go in the first round. I think that's a pretty good bet. I'm even going to go with Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe to go in the first round, plus 135. There's a lot of smoke to him at the Steelers. So give me those 2 quarterbacks on top of the 2 I think we know are going to go in the first round tomorrow at the NFL.
I prefer to bet on the football itself, so I'm going to look ahead to the UFL this weekend. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go to the UFL. Have you seen some of the attendance at the UFL games?
It's shocking.
There's like 11 people in the stands, and they've got a network deal on TV.
I know. And
it's crazy.
It is such a testament to the power of brands, right? Like the NFL is a brand. Some of the big college football teams and the brands they have.
Yeah.
Because the quality of player in this league now, the quarterback, the
Yeah,
problem with football is when you have poor quarterbacking, it is not an aesthetically pleasing game. The quality of athlete and player on that field is really good.
At every other position, probably very
It's
good.
really good.
Yeah.
But you don't have the NFL brand on you. You don't have those major college brands on you. And America's not paying to
The funny thing is
to go watch those games live.
a lot of the teams have NFL colors, so it just looks like you're in a bad movie where they've had to change the logos of the teams. It's bad. Anyway, I'm going to the NHL, and it sounds like McDavid's playing with Draisaitl tonight, as they try to just say enough of this. We're winning this hockey game. I'm going to take a 3-point night for Connor McDavid playing with Draisaitl. Pays out a plus 375.
I like it.
And
I
I
like
also
it. That's smart.
I also did hit mine. I had Devils minus 1.5 last night.
Oh, wow.
And they got that.
No, Carolina minus 1.5.
Carolina minus 1.5, which is what I took. Yeah.
Want to get in on the action for the Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365? They got you. Game props, player props, totals, money line. You can even bet on futures like series winners, conference champions, the Stanley Cup champion, and so much more. Whatever you bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs, must be 19 or older. Frank Corrado coming up next. Secure some price from the historic Wall Center.
Unlike you, I have not played a lot of golf lately, and for my own health, I feel like I should, because the bogey juice would be flowing so fast right now. I need to hit the range a bit more before I get back out on the course.
It'd be a shame to waste all this nice weather. I mean, the rain
And all the nice bogey juice.
yeah.
I would drink all the bogey juice if I went out there right now. But you're right. It's such beautiful. The next time you're on the course, make sure you've got your bogey juice ready. Bogeyjuice.com. You can get them in individual servings. You can get them in the big bottle so that you can make it as a cocktail with some soda, perhaps. Check it out. It's the far more attainable on-course beverage than the
You're not making birdies, let's face it. I mean, the rare one, right, where luck shines on you, the putt drops, but for the most part, you're making bogeys.
Apple, ginger, delicious. Check it out. Bogeyjuice.com. Use the code SP15. Get your 15% off your order.
Here's Frank Corrado, former Vancouver Canuck TSN hockey analyst. How are you?
Just thinking about golf, boys. Thinking about it. I don't know when I'll be able to play, but one day I'll get out there. I'll be just as lucky as you guys getting out there.
His course doesn't open for another week yet, Blake.
So mean.
Greens here are already firming up. They're not as receptive as they used to.
He's been beating on all the Eastern guests, Frankie. He's been just...
Listen, man, I get it. I get it. Fresh air, mountains, the sea, nice scenery. And what do we get? We get a late golf season start.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, the fact of the matter is when your team is not participating in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you have to make your own fun. So I'm out there playing golf and teasing Easterners about all the golf we're playing.
Do you remind people about your hole-in-one still, or is that...
No, I don't go to
Thank God that rhetoric has died down. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
No, I mean, the anniversary date's coming up. We'll mark it then, but...
The T-shirts will be available.
Every time we get to the 8th tee at Northlands, I mention it, but...
Oh, my God.
It's a small audience. What did you make of Rutherford and Alvin on Monday?
Oh, boy. That was something, man. Like, I'm sure you guys have kind of chewed it up a million different ways, but you know what it kind of reminds me of? Like, fans are so into their team, and fans will, like, conjure up, the most extreme of narratives and, situations in their head, and they throw it out there on Twitter, right? And then oftentimes at the end of the season, we kind of expect whether it's the general manager or the head coach to be calculated and precise with what they're going to say and not add any fuel to the fire. And it was like they said, nah, let's just talk about what everyone else in the most extreme fanatical type of way is going to talk about and lay it all out there. And I use the word calculated. It's almost so uncalculated, it could be calculated. You know what I mean? It's
That's
like
the
almost
debate.
so, it's like so unbelievable
I think it is.
that it was like, wait a second. Am I missing the reason why you would even go to those lengths and those extremes? But it was pretty revealing, to say the least.
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, and not to disparage Pittsburgh or Raleigh, but they are not the same hockey markets that Vancouver is. I think Rutherford is wise enough to know he's speaking to a very savvy hockey market. As you always say, Frank, Canucks Twitter is undefeated.
Yes.
Right? So the conversation is out there with or without you, so you might as well get ahead of it as best you can, get on the right side of it as best you can. And then the other thing I think is they sat around this year, took stock, and I can't believe this is happening. Right? So I honestly think it's a little cathartic, a little therapeutic.
You know what?
To be out there talking about it.
Watching that, it kind of puts it into perspective, the toll that this season would have taken on everyone, right? Whether it was the management, the coaches, the players, and especially like the leadership group. And I kind of am basically just referring to Quinn Hughes, because he was he's the captain and he's in the middle of all these moving parts around him and all that noise. But like this season took a chunk out of everyone. It's like it's hard to watch that and not think like, how bad were the bad days for these guys, or how stressed out were these guys in the middle of everything going on and your team is losing. And Matt, to your point, like you can hear the outcry in the market, and it's a savvy fan base who really gets it, and they're knowledgeable, and you can't hide and you can't BS anything, and they know that. And so I think like that's one of my takeaways, as much as it was, calculated or not calculated, whatever you want to, talk about, like everything was kind of laid out on the line, but it just felt like there was a serious toll on everyone involved. And it's not like, here's the thing now though, it's not like the cloud just got lifted and it's over.
No,
it's a little bit of a hiatus, a little bit of a break,
Well,
and you got some serious work to
He
do.
almost conjured another cloud in the Quinn Hughes matter.
As the season premieres of Andor and Last of Us drop, the season finale of the Vancouver Canucks was what sent us off into the off season with all sorts of question marks. Lightning round time. 2 years from now, who's a Vancouver Canuck? Rick Tocchet, Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson.
You want me to go all three of them?
Tocchet, go.
Not a Canuck. Quinn Hughes, a Canuck. Elias Pettersson, not a Canuck.
Wow. Okay.
Now explain yourself.
I flipped a coin. I think that the Tocchet thing, okay. They obviously had the option to keep him around. They're not going to do that. They want to negotiate in good faith, and they want him to want to be here. There's a lot of coach openings right now. And I think if you're really having, a deep conversation with yourself about building it up or being somewhere that maybe you're a little more comfortable, or who gives you a better chance to win, there's going to be options for a guy like Rick Tocchet, or Rick Tocchet specifically. Like, think about what the resume includes. It's coach of the year last year. It's multiple Stanley Cup, wins as an assistant coach. It's a guy that like is known for like communicating with guys. Like, whatever you thought of this year almost feels like a wash. My point is, he's going to be very highly sought after and could find himself in a situation that might be more advantageous to whatever he wants to do. So I feel like those balls would be up in the air. I said Quinn Hughes would still be a Canuck. I guess I'm kind of just hanging on to the fact that he's been a good soldier here.
Yeah.
He's everything here. He probably, enjoys the city, enjoys playing there. I mean, I would imagine it's such a great place to be. But like he's going to get everything that he could hope and ask for, and he could go down as one of the best, if not the greatest player to ever play in the organization. So legacy factor, call it that. Elias Pettersson, I think that's like last chance for this guy, based on everything that we heard from Rutherford and Alvin and Tocchet for that matter, in the postseason kind of recap. And it's like, if in their opinion, he doesn't get his act together and starts practicing better, and commits himself, in the gym, or, take it on the ice, like away from the puck, like really kind of rounds out his game, then the way Jim Rutherford is, like he just went out there and pulled the trigger on all these comments. He's trigger happy to make trades, and I don't think he'll care if he loses a trade involving Elias Pettersson just to say, I've rid myself of enough things here, and I'm going to do this thing now. And this is like, if the guy can't do it, I gotta wash my hands with it at some point, and the organization's going to have to move on to someone else regardless of who's coming back.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly on that part, but what you don't want to get to the point is where you're paying for Elias Pettersson to go away. And the danger is that I think at this point, no, you can still maybe win a trade, or at least have a fair trade of Elias Pettersson and his contract, but because we're only a year away from him being truly elite. But if you get longer than a year away, with the length and the expense of that contract, do you have to start holding back salary and effectively paying somebody to take Elias Pettersson? You don't want to get to that point. And because you can always trade somebody with a no move. That's been proven time and time again. So the no move kicks in, but you need him to play ball, and it gets so restrictive if you trade him past July 1st that you start to lose unless he's really performing.
Well, I think there's a lot of things there that you can touch on. First of all, the team is always going to have like winning a championship as the ultimate goal. So all the questions you're going to ask about Elias Pettersson and anyone involved will be, can we win with this guy?
Right.
And if it gets to the point where we're seeing what we saw from him this year, then like the answer is quite evidently no. Like you can't. And then so it comes down to if you had to find a way to move him, you're not getting fair market value, in your opinion, anyways. Like, you're not winning the trade. It's almost like a situation where beggars can't be choosers, and you just got to find a way to get out from under it. And it wouldn't be the first time a player of that caliber, like, you had to eat salary or had to do something. It wouldn't be the first time in the history of the league, right? Like, it sucks. And I'm not saying it gets to that point, but I'm just saying, like, if he doesn't figure it out in their eyes, it's not like, pick a team that would have something that you would want coming back in return. Like, I don't know, you talk about Columbus or Detroit or Carolina. It's like, who's coming back in your eyes that makes it a fair trade?
So I've thought a lot about this. I still believe they have a window before July 1st to trade for him and reap value. I'm not sure it's going to be the blow you away value that they might have reaped if they had moved him last year before this extension. But I still think there are teams out there that fancy Elias's skill set and think that we can get more out of him, particularly in a quieter market where, you know, he doesn't have an antagonist like JT Miller across the dressing room.
Use the Rantanen thing.
Right?
Like, use the Rantanen kind of template this year, Matt, where he goes for Natchez and then Stankoven. And, like, Mikko Rantanen at the time is considered a top 10, 12 player, like, pretty much unanimously around the league. Like, Pettersson's not that anymore. So I think, like, that Natchez Stankoven guy's not really on the table for you.
I was going to say, I would be surprised if the return got to the levels of Natchez, Drury in a second. I would be surprised if the return got to the level of, was it Stankoven and 2 first-round picks that they wound up getting?
Yeah, I can't remember the picks, but
okay.
I'm just thinking of, like, the player that's coming to help you win right now.
I think it would fall short of that, and so the Canucks have to make a decision on whether or not they are going to cut their losses or whether or not they think Elias can bounce back. The other structure I see as possible here, Frank, because remember, the Canucks also don't want to take steps back, right? Like, they don't want this to be a futures-loaded or exclusively a futures deal. I wonder if it's a, change of scenery, our problem for your problem, kind of like what we saw with the Dubois-Kemper trade.
Yeah. You gotta, I guess, locate someone around the league who's in the same boat as you and your guy and hope that it works out. And listen, like, to that trade, Pierre-Luc Dubois was kind of like last chance you. He had worn out his welcome in Columbus, in Winnipeg. Didn't go well for him in LA. There you go. Now it works in Washington. So I think it is a little bit of a lesson in not just getting swept up in the recency bias on a player, and not even recency bias, just like thinking that he is only this, what we've seen from him, over the past calendar year and then some. We've kind of talked about this a lot this year. Elias Pettersson didn't forget how to play hockey. Like, there's other elements at play. There's the same guy that was filling the net, getting 100 points. Like, he's in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. So you're right. Like, there is something to be said there. It's just, you've got to convince another team that that's the case. Yep. And you got to convince them that they got to give you something that doesn't completely, revolve around futures.
Right. Not easy. Not sitting here for a second and suggesting that this would be easy.
Before we leave him,
okay.
And no one's saying that you can be right here, but just your gut and what are your eyes telling you? And the answer is both, but what's the bigger piece, do you think? Him physically getting better and in shape and strengthening former injuries, or do you think it's between the years? What's the bigger piece for Elias Pettersson?
I think it's physically. I think the physical affects the mental and holds back the mental. And like if you didn't have anything bothering you, you know, like chances are the mental is probably in a pretty good place. Unless something, you know, happened, and we all deal with mental health struggles, but I think it is, you know, okay, we don't all, but people do. There's like a domino effect that leads to certain things. And I think the first domino is physical. And so once you take care of that, then you have the opportunity to kind of get yourself right between the ears.
I will defer to your expertise on it. I think it's a hell of a question, though, Blake, because he it's not like he wasn't skinny. It's not like he wasn't, you know, a little weak on his skates, and yet there was a 100-point season in there for that guy.
That's what I keep throwing at people that say he doesn't know how to prepare.
Rutherford,
all of his preparation, all of his usual stuff got him to a 100-point season and a 90-point season.
Like he's got to get stronger on his skates. There's no question.
Yeah.
You'd love if he could get a little bit more explosive. He doesn't have to have long speed, but just like separating ability.
Quick little burst. Quick little burst,
exactly,
quick out of the gate. Because that's the thing. Like, that's how he kind of would create separation in the past, where
that's it.
Little head fake, I got a first gear. I can get out of there quickly. He needs to get that. And to your point about him always kind of being slender and skinny, that worked for him because he was slippery. And he would kind of slither his way around. Whereas if you're bulkier, you have a hard time doing that. So as much as they want him to get bigger, bigger's not always, you know, it's not always the right thing. Just get stronger and get a little more explosive. And if the size comes with that, that's great. But you have to work with what you got to a certain degree. Like, I don't know. You can't just ask guys to come in and say, you got to just throw on 15 pounds. Great. What did that do for you?
Yeah,
for sure. And Frank, you hit it like really across a whole fleet of sports. Overrated, long speed. Underrated, acceleration, agility in tight areas.
Well, you want to hear
about
something?
this at the NFL draft on Thursday as they're breaking down prospects as well. But yes, and yet, you know, Rutherford characterized it as a mental thing. He said, you know, he got behind the 8 ball, Taka did, and then the confidence waned, and I hear that argument too.
That's a coach-player thing that's different. By the way, on the gears, just quickly, when I was in Vancouver, we did force plate testing. So you jump off this like blue platform, and all the data goes into the computer, and it's like it would spit out like a first gear, second gear, third gear, right? And so the defenseman profile, for me anyways, that you wanted to have was a really, like, it was like a bar graph. You wanted the first gear to be your tallest bar, second gear a little bit less, and third gear a little bit less, because the thinking was, as a defenseman, you're to the corner, to the front of the net, to the corner, to the front. You want to be really quick in that regard. That's your first gear. I had the smallest first gear, a middle second gear, and like a way high third gear.
Yeah.
And then so like we tried to change it and be like, okay, it's like, and then it just, sometimes you're just genetically going to be a certain way. And that's it.
He mentioned that. He talked about how, you know, it's hard for him to put on strength because of genetics.
So you should have been a long track speed skater. We should have sent you to the Olympics.
That's what I should have been doing.
Skater.
Yes, exactly. Goofy skates, spandex, and everything.
Yeah.
What do they call it in Holland? The Viking ship there, or the hop, hop, hop? Yeah. I want to get to this before we let you go. How chilled would you be if you're the Vancouver Canucks, knowing Quinn wants to play with his brothers at some point, and knowing he's 2 years away from free agency with a very
you could make all the preps in the world
season,
and then he just walks on you. You know, like you could prove yourself over the next 18 months, but then he still says, "Yep, still going to go play with him."
I would lose sleep over that. Like, I really would. Like, that's a player that you can't afford to lose. No organization can afford to lose a player like that. And the thing is, the thing that makes it realistic is, yes, of course, that like the brothers are always going to be playing somewhere else, but it's the fact that this organization has a lot of work to do now to get itself back to a place where you can go to him and say, here's the pitch for staying. We are going to be very good in a cup window for the next like 5 years or so. That's what you have to have on the table ready for him, or else he's going to look at it and say, well, I appreciate everything, but I want to go play with my brothers, and that team is actually really good and maybe has a chance to win right now. Like it has to be like overly convincing. And they're far away from that right now. So that's the biggest fear. And I would lose sleep over that. I don't know, a lot. Like that's will be my driving focus for everything I do the next little while.
If his brothers played for the Sabres, I would have some hope for the Canucks and that they could outpace that team and all that. I mean, the Devils are poised pretty well. Like, I don't think they're going to be hoisting the chalice this year, but the next couple of years, I think it's within possibility, and that's the danger, is that he sees just as good an opportunity to win the Cup with his brothers in New Jersey.
Yeah. You get maybe it comes to the point where you get ahead of it and try and make a trade so you don't lose them for anything.
We brought that up yesterday.
Man.
We brought that up yesterday. It's terrifying, but is there any wisdom there in going preemptive?
It's a terrible thought, though.
You would have to have complete closure on the situation as far as like, hey guys, this is going to happen. Like Matthew Tkachuk did with Calgary.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Guys, this is going to happen. I just want to throw you the courtesy. If you want to do something, maybe I owe it to you that way, which, hey, you'll cross that bridge when you come to it. But hopefully for the Canucks and the fans that love the team, they get to watch Quinn Hughes for a lot longer in that jersey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I learned of The Last of Us earlier in this interview.
You hadn't heard of the show The Last of Us?
I've never heard of the show The Last of Us. I see Jennifer Aniston did a cameo, and Andor, I did not realize was a prequel. Rogue One, hot take, Rogue One, the finest Star Wars film ever made.
Okay.
Wow, that is a hot take.
I'll level with you guys. I'll be completely honest. I haven't watched a TV show in what feels like ages, and my poor wife was like, let's watch the new season of White Lotus together. And we would put it on, and I would sit there on the stupid iPad watching games and like half watch White Lotus. And she'd be like, whoa, did you see that? I'm like, no, it's a commercial break right now, honey. She's like, no, in White Lotus. Like, no, honey, I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's my life.
Twin babies will also do that to you.
Twin girls. Yeah. Go get back to them. Thank you for this.
See you guys.
Let's take Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
And wouldn't today be a great day with the sun out to jump behind the wheel of a Toyota BZ4X, get the windows down, and enjoy a nice drive.
The stereo up, the windows down, sunroof open,
and not stuck in traffic because you're in the HOV lane. You're just cruising.
Beautiful day to sightsee here in the Lower Mainland. I've told you this before. I find driving on a nice, beautiful day. I will sometimes just drive for the therapy of it. Yeah.
And you know what? You can do this today without even purchasing one just yet. Go to your Pacific Toyota dealers. This is how much they are confident in the BZ4X and your love of it. Just take it for a test drive. Just see what we're talking about. The joie de drive, if you will. I just made up a slogan for them.
That's brilliant.
Joie de drive. Check it out because you also get $6,500 in rebates and incentives right now. 0.99% APR financing for 36 months at your Pacific Toyota dealer. ShopToyota.ca.
Cam Robinson always brings me joie.
Joie donkey.
And he joins us from Allen, Texas, and the World Under 18s, where he is the Pope. More on that here. And how are you, buddy? Good to see you.
I'm doing well, fellas. I mean, that might have been the best lead-in I've seen. I need a BZ4X. Like, I want the windows down and the stereo hot. Like, that sounds like a great time.
They might make them in Texas. Big Toyota part of the world. They have Toyota factories in Texas. It might be the BZ4X there. Just be careful.
Wait. Hold on. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yes. Good point.
Yeah. Don't want to out yourself as a Canadian. No. That's it.
Yeah. Good call.
Cam, we do want to talk to you about Tom Willander. You had information there last week. We also want to ask you about a young prospect that's going to play for Canada there, plays his junior hockey here in BC and could very well be in the Canucks territory in the first round. But we have to start with management's year-end press availability on Monday. What caught your ear?
Oof. Yeah, that was some.
What
press
didn't
conference.
catch your ear?
Yeah.
Shorter list.
I mean, they pulled back the curtain for the most part. I mean, Rutherford did absolutely. A little maybe crossing the line with some no tampering charges, but just because it doesn't make sense that they would be the ones acquiring the player. Instead, it would be New Jersey waiting to acquire Quinn Hughes when he goes to free agency. I thought it was good. I thought it was open. Basically cards on the table. They need to go get a second line center, and they say it's going to be expensive, but it would be more expensive to not do it. I probably agree. They talked about the injuries, they talked about the chemistry issues in the room, and it wasn't so much excuses, but it was kind of like, here's what happened. We had higher expectations. They didn't come to fruition. And so, that part I was fine with. The Tom Willander stuff with Patrick Allvin, I was a little less excited about, and we can dive into that as well too.
Yeah, well, we'll start with the captain, because we talked about it yesterday. This was a story that was percolating with Canucks fans, one that I don't think a lot of people wanted to take head on this soon this summer, and yet Rutherford has now laid it at the feet. How chilled do you suspect they are? How chilled would you be about the prospect of Quinn Hughes maybe going into his final season as a Canuck?
Oh, guys, I mean, this isn't in or around the industry. It's something that it's been fretted about in the market anyways, is that, how do they lock him up? When they went they didn't go a max term deal on him, and they set this up. They set him up to be able to walk away. And I'm sure that was by design for him too, is a shorter contract. I can see where everything's at, and I can maybe go play with my brothers. Not to say that Quinn Hughes is going to leave, right? Is that he could still sign a long contract and still go play with his brothers one day. And he's the captain. I'm sure that played a role in giving him the captaincy, but I like the honesty, but I didn't like kind of the storm that has started out of this. When it's someone on Twitter talking about like, oh, Quinn Hughes might want to play with his brothers, might want to leave. It's one thing. When it's your president of hockey ops saying it, it's another thing. And that's going to be the question that Quinn's going to be asked here in every media availability until something gets done too. So it's just, let's try to tamp some fires out before we start some new ones.
Do you feel like, there's an inevitability to a massive change to the Canucks for next year, regardless, whether it's probably not Hughes for next year, but Pettersson and the coach? Like, should people hold on to the armrests here a little bit, that something big has to happen for this Canucks team based on what we've heard?
Yeah, something big will happen. And it could be like earth-shattering where it is Rick Tocchet leaves, and it is Elias Pettersson's dealt at the draft in LA there in a couple of months. It could just be that they go out and sell the farm on getting like a really big name center. Do they go in and try to get Matt Barzal out of the Isles, right? Who just let go of Lou Lamoriello, and they'll probably be shifting to a rebuild style or retool style. Do they try to go get Bo Horvat, or do they even go bigger game hunting and they try to pull a huge UFA and a Mitch Marner or a Sam Bennett or something like that? So I do expect that something big is going to happen. I think it's much easier to go and make a signing and trade for a player than it is to move off an Elias Pettersson. And then the Rick Tocchet situation, that's just up to him. If he wants to be in Vancouver, they'll have him in Vancouver. If he doesn't, then he'll be gone. So I think Canucks fans are probably pretty well aware of that now.
Is Malhotra a candidate if Rick moves elsewhere, particularly if he has success here with the Abbotsford Canucks?
No inside information on it, but he absolutely should be a candidate. And the other good thing about him is that he's going to be cost effective, right? Which is, ownership would love that too, is that they could get him on a shorter term deal at a smaller price tag than what they're going to have to pay, obviously, Rick Tocchet, or another established NHL veteran coach, which gets into the recycle session here, but you end up still paying him their $3 to $5 million too.
Mm-hmm. Do you suspect that Barzal is now available, or do you suspect that the New York Islanders are going to go through some degree of retool, rebuild that allows either Barzal or Horvat to shake free?
I do think that that's a possibility. I think that they, when Lou came in there, he helped that team, get to Eastern Conference Finals and a couple of years ago, and they kind of squeezed all the juice that they had left out. And trading Brock Nelson and making some moves at the deadline that they did is signaled that the future has to change. It has to be about building again. So obviously Horvat's under contract for a number of years. He's not a young player. He could be a trade chip for sure. Barzal's younger, but he's not as young as he once was, right? And he has that injury history, but he still has name value. And I think that the team would do well if they could get a good price for him to trade. And the buying team would be taking on some of that risk with his injury history, but he is a supremely speedy and talented player who could really inject a lot of life into a lineup like the Canucks.
I could
Do
see.
you like him in the middle, Cam? Because I know he's played both. Where do you prefer Barzal, and what kind of profile of player do you want to see him play with?
I would prefer him in the middle because that would solve the problem. And he can handle himself down the middle for sure. That's where he's played his entire career. He has that speed on the wing is nice, and it frees him up from the responsibility. But you can say that about any really speed-driven center too. So he's not an overly defensively responsible center, but he can handle himself well. Who do I want to see him play with? I want to see him probably play with guys who can handle themselves a little bit more defensively, but also have that goal scoring too, right? Is because he is a good passer. He's a very good passer. He has that speed that he can back up the defense, open up that space, and then move it over for the shot.
He and Horvat make the most sense for the Canucks because the Islanders could turn the page here. They've gone on lengthy runs with Barzal, not so much with Horvat, but they've gone on lengthy playoff runs with Matt Barzal as a member of the New York Islanders. Like, they've given the Barzal era a chance. So them turning the page there makes a little bit of sense. The other name that's coming up here for the Canucks that I see a little less sense in is Dylan Larkin, in that the Red Wings really want to be good. They have not made the playoffs. Like, the Islanders have been in the playoffs for 5 of the last 6 years before this year. Like they've been taking bites of the apple. The Red Wings have not. Like, they need to get in. They need to have a winning trade, not a liquidation trade. So, do you see any path to Dylan Larkin?
I mean, there's always a path potentially there if you want to give up real now assets, right? Which is
but what do the Canucks have in that? Yeah.
Elias Pettersson, right? Like it's
part
right?
of that trade, sure.
Yeah, maybe that's the way, but no, I don't see them moving off of Larkin unless it's an upgrade on Larkin. He's a hell of a player too, right? So absolutely, there'd be a whole host of teams that would line up to trade for him, but it doesn't make sense for the Red Wings because they need, like you said, they need to take that next step. They have to get into the playoffs, or else it's like Steve Yzerman has to be on the hot seat at this point already.
Let's jump into the Willander thing. Because that took people by surprise. He's going back to school. The Asian has since refuted that. Where are you at? What's your information saying?
I mean, I've been putting it out there. I've been saying it on the show here from day one. He wanted to come out. He feels he's ready to come out. The advisor feels the same way. He was happy to not burn a year off his ELC, start it for 25, 26, and go to Abbotsford and play a couple regular season games and get in there for their playoff run. He was ready. As soon as that national championship game, he could have been in Abbotsford the next day. But, and I've said this for a while, is that the Canucks have an internal structure for what they do for their entry-level contract bonuses, right? They did it on the Kiramaki. But it's like, it's a different ball game. Like, this kid he has options. He can go back to BU. He can play a third year there. And then now you have no more leverage. He goes back one more time. You're losing at potentially losing an 11th overall pick. He can go back to Rogel. He can play in the SHL next season. He's back in Stockholm, right? He's skating with the national team right now. And he's doing that because the Canucks left him really no other options, right? He's sitting there at school where a bunch of his teammates have already signed. They moved on to the AHL, to the NHL. He doesn't have anyone to practice with and train, and he's not ready to shut down his season. He's not ready to look to training mode yet. He's still hoping to play games, and whether that's with Abbotsford or with the national team, that's what he'd prefer. And so for the Canucks, it's like, I just don't understand at this point. You're going to haggle over tens of thousands of dollars on these Schedule A bonuses for a player that you took at such a lofty spot in the draft. It's like, I understand when management teams will lowball a player purposely because they're maybe not thrilled with what he's accomplished so far in his development. And they're like, you know what? Yeah, we took you at this spot, but we're not fully committed to you long-term yet. So this is what we have to offer. But this is a player that
advocate it? Can you even devil's advocate it? Like try to imagine what they're thinking. Can you even get there?
Well, maybe that's it. What he just said.
I mean, but there's no reason for them to not be overly, to be intrigued and he's played very, very well. Like he was, and people razz on me because Axel Sandin Palika is such a tremendous player. I thought he was Sweden's best player at the World Juniors. I thought that he, handling Sasha Boumediene was the youngest player in the NCAA this year. They were partnered up all year. He was babysitting the youngest player in college hockey, and he did very, very well. In the national championship game, when they were overwhelmed by Western Michigan, he was one of the few players on BU who was not overwhelmed by the moment and by the stage and by the pressure. He still played well. He rises to the occasion. He's not someone who's going to put up 50, 60 points in the NHL. That's not the player that he is, but he is one of these ones that you win with because he can eat up tons of minutes, play strong defensively, move the puck. He skates well. He does all the little things right. Louis Eriksson throwback. And there's no reason to not be smitten over this player. And it's like, if you just have an internal budget that you're like, no, we're not going to wiggle for anybody, it doesn't matter. Then it's like, Why would you have that in place for performance A bonuses that are maximum going to cost you $1 million? See, Bulliam just came out. He got his $1 million in bonuses added to it. You know, these things, like even if it's 750, you can get him up to near the max bonus that he's probably not going to hit them anyways.
Is he a trade chip now?
I mean, the fact that Alvin said that last week, the last we heard was that he was going to go back to school and that, you know, it was a lot of money for this kid to be turning down. Those things to me, it's like, they're not going to pressure him to come out by saying that. He's turned down a pro contract in the SHL to go to BU, to chart a path that we haven't seen before. A kid coming out of the J20 defenseman to go to the NCAA, huge leap, something we never see. He's like a pioneer in that regard. So he's unafraid to take a unique course of action here. So for them to be like, yeah, we're offering him a lot of money, just not what he wants, and for him to turn down, I don't think that that's very good. It's not very reflective of a positive relationship. And I think that from Willander's side, it's like he's learning how the business is done right now and who you can really trust. You know, so I do think that there's a potential that this relationship is starting to get fractured a little bit here, and then that makes a lot of sense that he becomes a trade chip.
I still think it's ridiculous, but are the Canucks are they emboldened because they just feel a little bit safer in their whole blue line setup right now?
Yeah, Victor Mancini, you know, playing so well on the right side there, and he looks like he's quickly developing too, is that it takes some of the pressure, but it's still like, look at that right side of the defense core and what they have in the pipeline. They still need Tom Willander. Like that is a piece that can be a legitimate top 4 guy, maybe even a top pairing guy, a complimentary top pairing guy on the right side that you invested in 11th overall pick. You said no, thank you to Zach Benson. You said no to all these players that went, there was Axel Sandin, there was a lot of good players that went after him. That they took this kid. It's like that you can't just waste that. So is the value going to be high enough for them to flip and turn him into a second line center? You're adding. So is it Willander in a first? That's a big cost. It better be a big name and an impactful young player coming back.
Yeah, and they specifically wanted this sort of profile too, right? The right shot defenseman. There were a lot of people thought it took him a little bit early, but understood it because it's the scarcest commodity. Speaking of prospects, Cam, you're at the U18s there, and we anticipate that Canada will be adding a young center iceman from the Victoria Royals, who sadly lost in double overtime last night to Spokane. So they're out of the WHL playoffs in round 2. Going to see Spokane and Portland in the Western Final. Tell us about Cole Reshny, because I see him with some helium up draft charts and might be there for the Canucks at number 15.
Yeah, Reshny, really good player. The first like legitimate star that the Victoria Royals have had. No disrespect to some of their former players, but as a draft eligible, you know, he continued to get better as the season went along, and his points just kept on flowing. So he's averaged over 2 points a game going back to basically the new year. So he has been on a heater of all heaters. You know, he was co-leading the CHL in points up until last night. Like you said, big double overtime loss for Victoria. That was their best playoff run though. Very nice player. He's a little slighter. He's slippery. You know, I've seen him a number of times live, and he can get, you know, forced to the outside, especially, you know, when I saw him at the Hlinka and ththings like that, where it's just he's not strong enough yet at like the really high end levels to force his way into things, but he's gotten better at it as the year progressed. An interesting player that we still rank in the 20s. But I think that with this hot streak, and he's going to, in all likelihood here, I've been told that very, very likely to expect him to join this Team Canada here in Texas with the U18s. If he has a big tournament here, you know, every scout in the NHL is at this event right now, and all the AGMs and the GMs will be here as well too. So if he has a big tournament right now, I could see him creeping up into the teens, and convincing a team that he's worthy. And, you know, the Canucks picking at 15, that he's an option. I think there's probably going to be better options, even players that are here. A kid like Brady Martin, who is, like, from my opinion, technically the best body checker I've ever seen at this age group. Like, he hits, and he hits hard, and it like hurts, and he doesn't chase hits. He just bury guys constantly. Plus he has offensive upside, two-way upside, plays the middle of the ice, plays in the Sioux there in the O. Really great player, has like a kind of unique backstory, Mennonite farm boy kid. He's got that farm boy strength. He's a player that I really like, and if he's around for 15, he's someone that I think Vancouver should take a long look at.
Look at you acting like the Canucks are going to use that draft. It's adorable.
Whoever has their pick, whoever has that pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Reshny from Macklin, Saskatchewan, speaking of farm boy, population 1,247. It's by the Alberta line, Blake, due south of Lloydminster, due east of Red Deer. Okay, buddy. Well, you have a fantastic week there at the U18s. Go Canada, go, and we'll catch up next week.
Sounds good. I'll be in Frisco next time we talk next week. There we go.
Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. If you're heading to a game in downtown Vancouver, make a staycation out of it. Book your stay here at the Wall. Call 604-331-1000. Ask for the Sick Harrison Price rate. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. It's time now for the Golf Report, brought to you by the Arnold Palmer designed Whistler Golf Club, and he's at it again. God bless him. He's a competitor on the ice. He's a competitor on the links. Former Vancouver Canuck and current New York Ranger, J.T. Miller, trying to qualify for the U.S. Open at famed Oakmont Golf and Country Club. He has a handicap, an index listed at 0.2, Blake.
Just a little below ours. Okay. Yeah.
So effectively scratch. He's in a local qualifying tournament where you have to have a handicap of 0.4 lower or be a professional. These local quali tournaments are between 20 and 100 players. There's a one spot for every 20 players, so basically 5 players maximum could go through this qualifying tournament into the next phase. If you get into the next, it's quite similar, just the field improves. You'll be drawing people from a larger geographic area. You will probably be in the mix with more professionals at that point. JT, of course, has tried multiple times to qualify for the U.S. Open, last in 2023. Alas, he shot a 6/78 that day and did not make it out of the local qualifying tournament. He plays at a Sewickley Heights Golf Club north of Pittsburgh. And, of course, Oakmont is also suburban Pittsburgh. So this is a home track for him.
He's probably played on it before, yes.
Think of this. You could have a local guy, professional athlete, qualifier at the U.S. Open.
I still find it incredibly amazing that of all the guys that is a scratch golfer on the Vancouver Canucks at the start of the season, that the guy with the quickest temper is the best one. Like,
yeah, it's a game that requires some pay. What's he like out on the course when things are going poorly?
Like, he must make Terrell Hatton look quiet and reserved.
Right.
Like the muttering from JT Miller to himself. I mean, you chastise me for my self-admonishment. You'd have to think.
I don't chastise. I like it.
You enjoy it?
I
Okay.
regale it. I rejoice in it.
I bet you JT's a big
I would think he's a
chastiser.
self-admonisher as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Here's the other thing. Plays hockey left-handed, golf right-handed.
That's a popular thing.
Do you play hockey left-handed?
No, but my dad is that. It's because left-handed hockey players are a dime a dozen. There's a lot of them, but they were often told when they were young, no, you got to flip over and play right.
That's
so my dad was told, you got to play right
Yes.
for golf. So he was a hockey lefty and then played golf right.
So weird
Yeah, it is.
what this sport had against left-handers way back when.
Yes.
So bizarre. Anyways, good luck to JT. I'm pulling for him. I think it'd be an awesome story. And pulling for the Whistler Golf Club as well. Spring preparations underway. The exciting opening day on May 9th. They're now accepting online bookings for the entirety of the 2025 season. No need to wait. Get those times locked in. And if you have a group of 12 or more, we really encourage you to get that time on hold because the prime times fill up very quickly there. It's a popular destination, the Whistler Golf Club. Tell them about your group, whistlergolf.com/groups. Follow on social media at Whistler Golf. Well, the big announcement earlier today, and what a gorgeous rooftop venue that served as the launch, the springboard for the Professional Women's Hockey League, and the huge announcement today that Vancouver will become the first expansion team in this league. Got confirmation that the club will be the primary tenants at the Pacific Coliseum, practicing out of the Agrodome. And that's a first for the PWHL as well. They are not primary tenants in any of their existing markets. So A massive day for women's hockey, for professional hockey here in the city of Vancouver. Tessa Bonhomme of TSN hosted the proceedings
Formerly
there.
of TSN, yes. Yes. It's a great day. It's an optimistic day, and I really hope it all works out. I mean, the P&E could be about to have a renaissance. Like if it all goes according to plan and the Whitecaps do end up building a stadium there, like all of a sudden the P&E has gone from a relic, like a disintegrating relic, to a bustling place for much of the season. And in this case, because of course PWHL will play through the winter, I mean, that's 12 months of the year then. The P&E will be a destination once again. It's very cool.
What were you telling me about the Agrodome and how that could be beneficial as well?
Well, and again, going back to our conversation too about practice facility for the Vancouver Canucks, and these are why you do things like this. So the PWHL team will be a part of investing in the Agrodome for upgrades and a renovation there. Minor hockey plays under the Agrodome, and it is terrible. It's a great historic venue. I love it, and the preservation of it, I think, is a great idea. But the ice is terrible. The shape of the rink is super odd. It's narrow and square corners. So getting all that figured out and getting a new ice plant there and a new new boards and all that. I mean, minor hockey is going to be a huge benefactor of all that. So it's great news for the city. It really is.
They're taking membership deposits, and also there is merch available. PWHL_Vancouver on X. You can see more details there. Cami Granato, Megan Augusta also on hand, of course. Megan, a police officer, Vancouver PD, and of course, Cami, Hockey Hall of Famer.
Former Vancouver Griffin, so she was part of that NWHL.
And of course, AGM of the Vancouver Canucks. Vancouver Canadians losing Everett 3-2 on a walk-off. They led 2-1 into the bottom of the ninth. The Aquasox played it 2 with 5 base runners. Vancouver really has no one but themselves to blame. They left 6 runners in scoring position, so didn't cash in when they needed to, wasted a good day from the hurlers. Grant Rogers did give up his first earned run of the season, but he's been awesome, and so have a number of C's pitchers. They're back at it tonight in Everett, and of course, they're home Tuesday here, April 29th. The homestand begins. It's a 6-gamer against Hillsborough. They will, of course, have a RBC We Care Wednesday. They will, of course, have your Fortis BC nooner on Friday. And then we've also been telling you Sunday, May the 4th, not only a White Spot Family Fun Sunday, but a Star Wars themed day. Get your tickets, 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. NFL draft first round goes Thursday, and some things are starting to come into focus. Other things could get quite interesting on draft night. The Tennessee Titans say they are staying in the number 1 spot, have identified a player that they will select. Everybody anticipates this will be University of Miami quarterback Cam Ward. There is even talk that Warren Moon is going to allow Cam Ward to wear his retired number 1.
Wow.
Of course, the Titans, once upon a time, the Houston Oilers. So Moon's number has been retired there, but Ward may go number 1. Where's number 1? Nice gesture by Warren. Peter Schrager of ESPN, formerly NFL Network and Fox, reporting that the number 2 pick for Cleveland and the number 3 pick for the New York Giants are getting all sorts of trade action. There are rumors the San Francisco 49ers want to move up from the 11th overall pick. Jerry Jones, the Cowboys, he says he's working on a couple of deals. But, Jerry's like Jim Rutherford, right? He just comes out and tells you. So Dallas with the top 15 pick. Jerry says he's working on a couple of deals there. Chicago GM Ryan Pohl says he believes there could be a lot more activity, more trading than normal. The Bears are another team to look at. Number 10, are they looking to move up, look down? And then Kirk Cousins, still with the Atlanta Falcons after signing that massive deal last year. Still not the starting quarterback as Michael Penix Jr. usurped him late in the season. And so we're looking at Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and maybe even back to Minnesota. Diana Rossini reporting there for Kirk Cousins. There could be some other roster players traded here. A lot of eyes on Trey Hendrickson, the Bengals edge rusher who's in a contract dispute. Brandon Ayuk, the 49ers wide receiver. The Miami guys, Jalen Ramsey, Tyreek Hill. This could be quite an explosive few days in terms of player movement in the National Football League.
I was away when they retired Shadur Sanders' number.
Yes.
In Colorado. Wow, that was a take. And now a lot of slander about Sanders and his ability to work with others.
So look, there's a lot of people in the NFL who really dislike Dion, and I think some of that shade has been transposed to his son. Now, I do think Shador probably didn't help himself in a couple of other, but there's apparently one terrible team interview there. Needless to say, Shador has adopted some of his father's swagger, confidence.
Well, one
arrogance.
NFL assistant, according to Dov Kleiman, one NFL assistant on Shador, the worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. He's so entitled. Yeah. He takes unnecessary sacks. He never plays on time. He has horrible body language. He blames teammates, but the biggest thing is he's not that good, end quote.
The other thing I would caution here, and first of all, I'm not particularly the biggest fan of the anonymous, let's go shred a 21-year-old going into the draft. Like, that's just, anyways.
If the 20 or 21-year-old was a dick in an interview, I've got no problem with that, though.
It is also lying season. You also will have people who get this information out there in order to try and dissuade a team.
Get them a little bit dropper,
yeah. Oftentimes you will have scouts rip a player to a media member thinking, great, maybe he falls to us. Shador Sanders is a big wild card in this draft. Could he go in the top 3 picks? Cleveland, the Giants are quarterback needy. Could he go later in the top 10? Is Oakland going to make a Vegas going to make a succession plan to Geno Smith? The Jets at number 7, they just have Justin Fields. The New Orleans Saints at number 9, and now knowing that Derek Carr has got a significant injury there, so he is a huge wild card tomorrow, Shador Sanders. As BC Lions have opened the Upper Bowl for the June 7th season and home opener against Edmonton. That, of course, is the kickoff concert game. We await the act, see what Amar Doman can do for his 4th big concert kickoff game. Of course, we had One Republic, we had LL Cool J, we had 50 Cent.
It's coming soon, though, the announcement.
Oh, yeah, very, very much. I was at a Lions event last week. Dwayne Vanneau, team president, said it's coming soon. It's a Mars baby. He's got to be the one who announces it, so looking forward to that. They've also jumped in on a couple of American defensive linemen. Demetrius Taylor was with them in training camp last year, played in the preseason game before moving to the UFL. And Kamoko Toure was a second-round pick of the Indianapolis Colts in 2018. There's a lot of physical tools to like there, so we'll see if he can make it with the Leos. Poll question results. Surrey Mitsubishi poll question results from Tuesday asked you, did yesterday's press conference, meaning Mondays, increase your confidence in Canucks management? Yes or no? The people said.
They said no.
Correct. Percentage?
62.
77.
Oh, boy.
Kent, I was already skeptical and now have completely lost my faith. Canuck Girl, yes, I trust them more than I trust the social media trolls. Guard, at the end of the day, it's about results, not having the best honest press conference once per year.
Yeah, that's fair.
Enough.
That's fair.
Artem, you misspelled decrease. And James, it did the opposite for me. No responsibility taken, no plan other than telling EP40 he needs to train better and be a well-rounded player. Admitting they are worried about Hughes leaving, squabbling over bonuses for Willander. What a mess.
Well, they can't fully detail a plan, but I do get it. Like, honesty without the escape route is it's a little bit unnerving, right? You're feeling uncertain. I get
Errors and omissions brought to you by Ben Moss, Canadian-owned, operated, a history dating back more than 1 century. 5 locations here in British Columbia, including Willowbrook and Langley, Coquitlam Center, Abbey, Chilliwack, Victoria, committed to customer satisfaction. Check out the large selection of Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds. They got mined diamonds with payment plans to suit your needs. Information available to you, benmoss.com. Ben Moss, because love is timeless. John called you on it. John calls everybody on this, not the NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs. Best trophy in sport, and very wise marketing way back when to put Stanley Cup in the title of the league's playoffs. It's not the Larry O'Brien playoffs. It's not the Vince Lombardi or Super Bowl playoffs. It is the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, it gives you an additional brand to sell.
Yep. Very much so. And let's face it, NHL isn't bringing a lot of people to yards south of the line.
No.
Whereas the Stanley Cup has allure, right?
And you have the best trophy in sports.
Yeah, absolutely. Some would say the best trophy presentation as well, because you give it to a captain, not an owner. I have nothing else. If there's anything from the inbox, anything from Yerke or Colin in planning, or those who like
no reporting has been done. We're safe.
Marvelous. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels. YouTube would really like you to subscribe to YouTube. Blake has a target in mind for the summer.
Yeah, we're getting close to 10. Let's go.
Please subscribe to YouTube. Blake would love that. And, of course, wherever you get your podcast, follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Blue Sky Live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. And keep it local.